Welcome to another episode of The More You Share, The More You Know. I'm Kathrin Salazar, the Instructional Technology Specialist at Education Service Center Region 19 in El Paso. Today, our episode continues our discussion about how to make groups. Remember that now that I've created that TV studio group, I have to find it again. When I log into my portal, I clicked on Collaboration and Groups, but my TV studio group is nowhere to be found. Remember that I have that drop-down menu where I need to select groups that I've created. I'm the owner of that TV studio group. And there it is. It's the first one on my list because it always shows groups to you in the order of last access. I'm going to click on the blue title of my group to enter the group. In our last show, we talked a little bit about the announcements and how to invite people. Today, we're going to continue focusing on the other menu items on the left. I'll start with the wiki, something that is very useful but quite misunderstood at times. Remember how I have this box helping me with some information that blocks my other text? Well, I do have to disable my menu tips on the iPad. Now I'm going to click on Wiki again, and I have made a sample one to show you about what wikis are all about. The biggest thing you have to remember about wikis is that they are not synchronous, meaning that me and another person can't be logged in and making changes at the same time. Some of us are used to that from Google Docs, but these wikis have a setting to where one person can make edits, then has to save, and then the next person can log in and continue making changes. Right here it tells me the title of my wiki and that it's version 1. That means it's only been edited once. I'm going to click on the pencil to make another change to my wiki. It tells me that we're going to add links for Web 2.0 tools, and I've added one called Kerpoof. Now I'm going to add another one called Today's Meet, todaysmeet.com. At the bottom, I'll press Update Changes. I've noticed that I have a typo. I can either leave it as is and another person can edit that, because remember that not only can you add, but you can erase and change other people's, or you can just add to the list. But here, I'm the next person, pretending to be the next person. I see a typo in somebody's, so I'll make that change. And I will add another tool. And this one will do Starfall. Make sure my spelling is correct, and then press on Update Changes. If you notice now on the right side, it says version 3, because 3 different people have edited this wiki. So this tool can be used for you to work on the same document collaboratively, just not in real time. The risk here, if you're using this with students, is theoretically you could have a student erase everybody else's work. So you definitely have to talk about digital citizenship and responsibility online when you're using wikis. On the left side, I'm moving along to Calendar. Inside of your group, you can have a calendar tool. Well, you can talk to your group members about upcoming events, meetings, anything you want to talk about. I've made a sample event for today. It tells me TV Studio. If I click on that, it tells me more information. It says the date and time and the location. And that gives my group members a heads up about any activities happening for my group. To add an item, remember how everything new gets added on the right side? It says add an event or item. It'll ask you a few things about your event. You have to give it a title. You have to choose a date with the calendar. And you have to choose a starting and ending time. So here it'll be 10 in the morning and it'll end at 1. Doesn't repeat. The category, it's actually a meeting, and I can give it a description if I want to. At the very bottom I need to press save, and then that item will be saved into the calendar. So you'll see now that I have 2 events in my calendar. On the left menu, I'm going to talk about the 2 most important things inside of a group, and those get used most frequently. The first one is called forums. This is a little bit different from the wiki because you have a discussion where people respond with an actual time and date and name stamping, so you can follow exactly who's been talking. And then you can continue the discussion because you can reply to each other. So here I've made a sample discussion called Book Study Chapter 1. If I want to see everything that I wrote, I can either click on its blue title or the view button that looks like an eye on the right side. It'll then expand the entire post, and I just say that we're reading the book called First Days of School, and please respond to Chapter 1 and answer questions. Here's the biggest part that people get confused about. To respond to this initial prompt, there's a button on the right that says Add a Topic, and that will add your response to this prompt. So I'm going to add a topic to myself, pretending I'm another person. I'll title it Chapter 1. And I'll just pretend that this book is a great introduction to, let me change that typo real quick, to how to be an effective teacher. Then at the bottom, I need to press Save. Now you can see that the top prompt is there, and there's already one topic posted under it. If I wanted to reply and say I were another person reading this, I would click on Chapter 1, the first topic that was added, and read what that person wrote. And then I can add a reply to them. On the far right, it says Add a Reply. That's where you can have those scaffolded discussions with each other, and really it enhances your professional learning community that way. So that's a quick view about the forums and your groups. Inside of Group Mail, I just want to highlight that if you wanted to as a group owner, you could send a quick message to all the members of your group with one click. I'm going to send a new message on the right, and then right there it says, who do you want to send this to? But it has a little checkbox for all members. If I have 200 people in this group, if I press that box, this message will immediately go out to my 200 members. It's a great way to keep them updated if you don't want to use the announcements feature. Now, the last thing that I think is the most important inside of a group, well, it's not the last thing, but it's actually the most actively used thing in a group, are your Dropboxes, and that is for file sharing. You will always start out with two default Dropboxes called General Files and Public Files. And the biggest difference here is any file that you upload into Public Files will be viewable to anybody that's not a Project Share member on your public website. So if you have some classroom rules that you want your parents to see, then you can actually upload them into Public Files, and when the parents access your website, they can actually download that as well, even without having a username and password on Project Share. I've added a third Dropbox called Book Study. If I have PowerPoints or PDFs, any kind of file I want to add, I can add it there and tell people they can access it there. They can download and upload their own files as well. The biggest thing to remember is it doesn't matter what file type you're uploading as long as it does not exceed 50 megabytes. So if you have a really long video, you may have to split that up into several segments before you can upload it into Project Share. The chat feature is really nice if you do want some live cooperation. If everybody has a chance to log into your group at the same time, remember how the wiki can't be accessed at the same time? Well, this chat sure can. At the very bottom, you have a text box ready to type, and then you press on Send. On the right side, you would see anybody else that's actively chatting with you. And here's the good part about the chat. If you're that high school teacher that invites your students to log in with you and maybe give some homework help in the evenings, they can even have chats with each other. And you can always pull up what they've been talking about by clicking on the little clock icon on the far right at the bottom. The clock is basically the archive that goes back to the very first day of your group's existence. So even if you've chatted back in February with some students and there's anything that they want to highlight about look how far you've come or look at the issues you had back then or some questions that came up, you can always pull up this archive, and that's really, really powerful. Okay, I think we're moving on to one of the last pieces of the group. Underneath the chat, obviously there's the link to your group website where you can make some more changes. I'm going to skip over to Take Notes. Now there's no more excuses for anybody to say that they forgot their flash drive at home or their dog ate their homework, because they can now take digital notes on Project Share wherever they are. As long as there's that internet connection and that device in front of them, they can always click here to take notes. So if I'm there at a faculty meeting listening to my principal, I can click here and start writing down all the information that I am listening to, whether or not it's about that group. And then I need to press Save continuously because this one does not auto-save. So you do have to press Save. And then it'll give you a new time and date stamp, and you can keep going. You do have the ability to export this, for example, to Microsoft Word, and later you can kind of clean it up, and that way you have a permanent record of all your notes that you've been taking. I really, really like that feature about Project Share. I believe that covers most of the tools that I wanted to talk about in the second segment about groups in Project Share. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.